picture this. You're at a coffee shop getting your morning coffee, and suddenly someone drops to the ground. Their joints tense up, their whole body begins to shake, their eyes roll to the back of their head, and they're making horrifying and frankly helpless sounding noises. Unless you have seen this before, this is likely one of the most scariest things you may ever experience and see. After the scenario concludes, you later find out from a conversation with a coworker that some of the biggest triggers with epilepsy are missed medication, stress, menstruation, alcohol, and lack of sleep. But in all seriousness, if you, like so many people, are unfamiliar with epilepsy, what it looks like, and what to do when one strikes, let me give you a brief rundown. Epilepsy comes in many forms, but tonight I'm going to inform you about the most likely scenario you may come across. According to Johns Hopkins Medicine, almost 2.2 million Americans live with epilepsy. With this, I want to inspire you and the general population to cultivate your knowledge on epilepsy. In this speech, I will do this by teaching you what to do if a situation arises, how research has developed over the years, and what treatments currently exist, along with goals for the future. So what do you do if you encounter someone having an active seizure? According to the Center for Disease Control website, seizures do not usually require emergency medical attention. Only call 911 if one or more of these are true. The person has never had a seizure before. The person has difficulty breathing or waking after the seizure. The seizure lasts longer than 5 minutes. The person has another one shortly after the first one. The person is hurt during the seizure. It happens in water, or the person has a health condition like diabetes, heart disease, or is pregnant. Of course, if one of these were to strike at a place like a coffee shop, more than likely the best scenario would be dialing 911. This is because if they suddenly drop, they will more than likely hurt their head or one other part of their body, causing even further damage. When one occurs, you should first and foremost keep yourself calm and everyone else around you. Make sure you designate one person to call 911. And this is important because if you yell out in a panic, "Somebody dial 911," things get chaotic, and it may not happen due to people panicking and thinking, if I don't do it, someone else will. Do not try and hold them down no matter how tempting it may be. Make sure there is nothing in their mouth, and if anything is around them that may hurt them, make sure you take those away. Afterwards, gently roll the person onto their side, and when you're able to, be sure to get the person to a safe place. Ask for help if you need to avoid hurting yourself and the person. And finally, make sure you stay with the person until they wake up and it has fully ended. With that in mind, let's briefly look at how research has developed over the years. In Dr. Ina Kesselman's article, The Evolution of Seizure to Epilepsy, written for Practical Neurology Journal in October of 2019, she wrote, "Although there may be far to go, we have come a long way from equating seizures with demonic possessions and have more tools to address seizures and epilepsy." Seizures are not just something that has randomly shown up in the 20th century. They've been around since people have existed. In fact, there are descriptions in documents of very similar occurrences as early as 2500 BC. Despite many factors with epilepsy, if a creature has a brain, they are susceptible to potentially having one. Until a period between 980 and 1037 AD, a seizure episode was interpreted as a form of religious diversion or punishment. The previously mentioned time frame is when a Persian physician started to begin to make the connection between bodily functions instead of divine intervention or demons. During the 19th century, people with epilepsy were seen as insane, and in the late 1800s and early 1900s is when epilepsy and neurology really began to take off. Today, we have more modern treatments that are only improving with time and research. And as I previously mentioned, there are many forms of epilepsy and seizures. Several forms of treatment include the keto diet, medications, surgeries, and neuroimplants. The National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke mentions that doctors who treat the epilepsies come from many different fields of medicine and include neurologists, pediatricians, pediatric neurologists, internists, and family physicians, as well as neurosurgeons. Since there isn't a single drug of epilepsy that will, the road will be long and hard in the future. But one thing we can trust is that medical professionals will continue to improve on what they already know works for the majority. Because there are so many factors involved with seizures and epilepsy, it is hard to say where we're going to be even in a decade from now. But just like we saw with the recent pandemic, we know that they will continue to find more and more solutions, and the research will just go faster and faster as the years progress. In the end, this is an ailment that we could all potentially fall victim to at any point in our lives, and frankly, for any reason. Some people have to live with it lifelong. Other people will experience it due to trauma, and sometimes it will just happen once in their lifetime, and there will be no other reason except for a random synapses misfire in their brain. Other than that, it is important for us to educate ourselves on topics such as epilepsy in order to aid progression of research and discovery, along with better preparing ourselves for action if an emergency were to arise. The path to kindness and ultimately a better community is knowledge and empathy.